The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. You will never do anything in this world without courage. It is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. I don't need a friend who changes when I change and who nods when I nod. My shadow does that much better. Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. Good people do not need laws to tell them to act responsibly, while bad people will find a way around the laws. True wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us. Bring your desires down to your present means. Increase them only when your increased means permit. When a man laughs at his troubles, he loses a great many friends. They never forgive the loss of their prerogative. Better to illuminate than merely to shine, to deliver to others contemplated truths than merely to contemplate. Stand a little less between me and the sun. The reading of all good books is like a conversation with the finest minds of past centuries. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. By all means marry. If you get a good wife, you'll become happy. If you get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher. Good can exist without evil, whereas evil cannot exist without good. Certainly, in taking revenge, a man is but even with his enemy, but in passing it over, he is superior, for it is a prince's part to pardon. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Our incomes are like our shoes. If too small, they gall and pinch us, but if too large, they cause us to stumble and to trip. The part of life we really live is small, for all the rest of existence is not life, but merely time. Probable impossibilities are to be preferred to improbable possibilities. As long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace, for as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. Our prayers should be for blessings in general, for God knows best what is good for us. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. The way of fortune is like the Milky Way in the sky, which is a number of small stars, not seen asunder, but giving light together. So it is a number of little and scarce discerned virtues, or rather faculties and customs, that make men fortunate. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. If you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt as far as possible all things. There are horrible people who, instead of solving a problem, tangle it up and make it harder to solve for anyone who wants to deal with it. Whoever does not know how to hit the nail on the head should be asked not to hit it at all. All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. Stubborn and ardent clinging to one's opinion is the best proof of stupidity. Prayer does not change God, but it changes him who prays. Plato is dear to me, but dearer still is truth. Above the cloud with its shadow is the star with its light. Above all things reverence thyself. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Intuition is the undoubting conception of a pure and attentive mind, which arises from the light of reason alone and is more certain than deduction. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. If all misfortunes were laid in one common heap, whence everyone must take an equal portion, most people would be contented to take their own and depart. Two things awe me most, the starry sky above me and the moral law within me. Nothing is more active than thought, for it travels over the universe, and nothing is stronger than necessity, for all must submit to it. All things are subject to interpretation. Whichever interpretation prevails at a given time is a function of power and not truth. The more you struggle to live, the less you live. Give up the notion that you must be sure of what you are doing. Instead, surrender to what is real within you, for that alone is sure. You are above everything distressing. Moving from an objective statement of fact to a subjective statement of value does not work, because it leaves open questions that have not been answered. He is richest who is content with the least, for content is the wealth of nature. If we only wanted to be happy, it would be easy, but we want to be happier than other people, and that is almost always difficult, since we think them happier than they are. I hope that posterity will judge me kindly, not only as to the things which I have explained, but also to those which I have intentionally omitted, so as to leave to others the pleasure of discovery. There are slavish souls who carry their appreciation for favors done them so far that they strangle themselves with the rope of gratitude. To live alone is the fate of all great souls. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Whenever anyone has offended me, I try to raise my soul so high that the offense cannot reach it. Be not astonished at new ideas, for it is well known to you that a thing does not therefore cease to be true because it is not accepted by many. God is not external to anyone, but is present with all things, though they are ignorant that he is so. 3 things are necessary for the salvation of man: to know what he ought to believe, to know what he ought to desire, and to know what he ought to do. Wisdom denotes the pursuing of the best ends by the best means. Every heart sings a song incomplete until another heart whispers back. The production of too many useful things results in too many useless people. Where there is reverence, there is fear, but there is not reverence everywhere that there is fear, because fear presumably has a wider extension than reverence. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. On the mountains of truth you can never climb in vain. Either you will reach a point higher up today, or you will be training your powers so that you will be able to climb higher tomorrow. If people never did silly things, nothing intelligent would ever get done. We have 2 ears and 1 tongue so that we would listen more and talk less. To understand the nature of the people, one must be a prince, and to understand the nature of the prince, one must be of the people. We are always complaining that our days are few, and acting as though there would be no end of them. All happiness or unhappiness solely depends upon the quality of the object to which we are attached by love. The principal use of prudence, of self-control, is that it teaches us to be masters of our passions, and to so control and guide them that the evils which they cause are quite bearable, and that we even derive joy from them all. There is nothing more notable in Socrates than that he found time, when he was an old man, to learn music and dancing, and thought it time well spent. If a man will begin with certainties, he shall end in doubts, but if he will content to begin with doubts, he shall end in certainties. Genuine tragedies in the world are not conflicts between right and wrong, they are conflicts between 2 rights. Dignity does not consist in possessing honors, but in the consciousness that we deserve them. To make no mistakes is not in the power of man, but from their errors and mistakes the wise and good learn wisdom for the future. All history has been a history of class struggles between dominated classes at various stages of social development. It is not so much our friends' help that helps us as the confidence of their help. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. It does not matter how many books you have, but how good the books are which you have. It is perfectly true, as philosophers say, that life must be understood backwards, but they forget the other proposition, that it must be lived forwards. One cannot make a slave of a free person, for a free person is free even in a prison. There is a difference between happiness and wisdom. He that thinks himself the happiest man is really so, but he that thinks himself the wisest is generally the greatest fool. Fate leads him who follows it and drags him who resists. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Be a free thinker and don't accept everything you hear as truth. Be critical and evaluate what you believe in. It is our choice of good or evil that determines our character, not our opinion about good or evil. Persons of genius, it is true, are and are always likely to be a small minority, but in order to have them, it is necessary to preserve the soil in which they grow. To prejudge other men's notions before we have looked into them is not to show their darkness but to put out our own eyes. So it is with minds. Unless you keep them busy with some definite subject that will bridle and control them, they throw themselves in disorder hither and yon in the vague field of imagination, and there is no mad or idle fancy that they do not bring forth in the agitation. Courage is the first virtue that makes all other virtues possible. Anticipation of pleasure is, in itself, a very considerable pleasure. As you simplify your life, the laws of the universe will be simpler. Solitude will not be solitude, poverty will not be poverty, nor weakness weakness. It is not sufficient to know what one ought to say, but one must also know how to say it. Words are but symbols for the relations of things to one another and to us. Nowhere do they touch upon absolute truth. Poverty doesn't come because of the decrease of wealth, but because of the increase of desires. The distinction between children and adults, while probably useful for some purposes, is at bottom a specious one, I feel. There are only individual egos, crazy for love. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed. When I am attacked by gloomy thoughts, nothing helps me so much as running to my books. They quickly absorb me and banish the clouds from my mind. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. There is a good principle which created order, light, and man, and an evil principle which created chaos, darkness, and woman. Reading furnishes the mind only with materials of knowledge. It is thinking that makes what we read ours. A person may cause evil to others, not only by his actions, but by his inaction, and in either case, he is justly accountable to them for the injury. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. I find it wholesome to be alone the greater part of the time. To be in company, even with the best, is soon wearisome and dissipating. I love to be alone. I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude.